friends, it's Gloria and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing my March wrap-up, going through all of the books that I got to read in the month of March, and I have a smallish amount, so hopefully this will be a quick one. As usual, I go through my books in my wrap-ups by genre. So let's start with nonfiction. I picked up How to Stay Married, the Most Insane Love Story Ever Told by Harrison Scott Key. The most insane love story is like a weird, you can kind of see it in the glare. But this is a nonfiction memoir comedy crazy story. I picked this up on a bit of a whim. I think with my books sometimes pieces just have to fall into place. Like I heard about this from the Goodreads Choice Awards and it was on my want to read list, and then I had a friend mention it that they really liked reading it. I put it on hold on Libby. It came in at the right time. It was a short audiobook narrated by the author, and that's kind of how it fell into place in my March reading. It was a wild ride. It was very interesting. I feel like this book brought up so many things, made me think about how I would react. It was hilarious and also very beautiful and moving and sad at the same time. Again, a really interesting story. This book is all about Harrison Scott Key and his marriage to his wife. One day after being married for 10 plus years, she just says, hey, I'm having an affair and I want out, I'm done. And he's like, what? And so he goes back in time to his upbringing, to her upbringing, to their love story, how they met and how their marriage has unfolded. He's very self-deprecating. The humor is on another level to me. I really appreciated it. It's not for everyone. He's also a Christian man, and so there's a lot of faith and spiritual exploration in here. This is not a Christian nonfiction, I will say. There are swear words and F-bombs all over the place. I would say this is like a secular Christian, if that makes sense. He's a really interesting man, and the way he told the story, full of forgiveness and grace, basically takes his wife back. This felt like the story of Hosea. It felt like redeeming love, but in modern times, just with a lot of other stuff thrown in. It was very interesting. I thought it was great. It was very entertaining to listen to, and also again made me really think about, you know, modern day marriage problems. I did find the Goodreads reviews interesting. There's a lot of people who hated on him and were like, man, your wife just needs to leave you, and like, please, her name I think is Laura or something, like, Laura, contact me if you need to run away and get away. And I didn't really understand that. I thought that he gave a lot of grace to his wife, who was the one that committed adultery, but then also, like I said, self-deprecating. He saw all of the flaws with himself as well. Like I said, I think this would be a very great book discussion with like a group of close friends that could just like unpack, you know, what they think about marriage and how they would react to certain things. So the audiobook, excellent, because he narrates it and he gives the right inflection at the right humorous moments for sure. So I liked my time with this one quite a bit. Let's continue with nonfiction, but move into middle grade because it was middle grade March and I participated on the sidelines. I did read the group read The Mona Lisa Vanishes, A Legendary Painter, A Shocking Heist, and the Birth of a Global Celebrity by Nicholas Day. This was a juvenile nonfiction, so a middle grade nonfiction with some fun little like illustrations, if I can find one, and artwork inside the book. And this was a fantastic nonfiction book for a younger audience. I mean, I am an adult and I still really enjoyed my time with it. I listened to the audiobook paired with the physical read and I thought it was very well narrated as well. It was quick, it was interesting, it was fun, it was humorous, it was clever. Basically goes all into the details of the Mona Lisa, Leonardo da Vinci, the woman behind the painting, and how the painting became so popular because one day, one man in Paris stole it and it went missing for several years and people freaked out about it. And it was just really well told. Totally loved my time with this one. I give 5 stars because I loved the reading experience, and I think if this topic at all interests you, then it would be right up your alley. But maybe if you don't like care about art or middle grade reading, then you probably wouldn't care. But I love this one. Next for middle grade, I picked up a contemporary that everyone is talking about, and that is Ghost by Jason Reynolds. This is a 4-book series, I believe at this point, about a young black boy joining a track team, and it is his perspective and his coach and other players on the track team making friends, feeling like the outcast, feeling like you don't belong, dealing with childhood trauma. It was really well done. I liked my time with it. I gave 4 stars. I don't gravitate or love contemporary children's fiction. I don't know why. So I'm not really drawn to continue the series, but I think for a middle grade audience, I would totally recommend this, especially if you have a reader who is on the track team or like loves running or being an athlete. I feel like this is probably a great read. Since we mentioned contemporary, moving on to an adult contemporary rom-com that I picked up was Rachel Ryan's Resolutions. This was mentioned by Amanda from On the Middle Shelf as one of her fave rom-coms. I'm always up for trying a new rom-com author because I've done all the big ones. Emily Henry, Abby Jimenez, Sarah Adams, Catherine Center. feel like I've read quite a few of the big names out there, and there's some popular names that I'm not really drawn to reading. I'm very picky with rom-coms, and this one was fun, but also not anything special to me. It landed where almost all the romantic comedies that I read land, is 3 stars, middle of the road. And I will say it's not really comedies, it's just like contemporary romantic fiction, but this is set in London, so it's your very typical like British contemporary fiction. It's like very descriptive of being in England and like drinking tea all the time and hanging out with your mates and going out to restaurants and pubs and that kind of thing, which I feel like I've picked up on from some of the British contemporary books that I have read. This book has a friends to lovers thing, it has a little bit of a second chance thing, it has a lot of workplace dynamics, so like what it's like to work in the advertising tech world as a young adult or someone in your like 20s and 30s. I liked it, but I didn't love it, and it's not like a memorable read for me. I'm not gonna be like thinking about this one. Moving on to historical fiction, my last category, I read the Blaze collection, which is a collection of 7 novellas that was on Kindle Unlimited or maybe just Prime Reading as well, and it was from 7 different historical fiction authors that I actually heard of all of them and read a few of them, so I thought this was kind of fun, and they were all focused on singular like female voice perspectives. I think it came out in honor of Women's History Month, and I'm glad I read them overall, but I will say I hated most of them. So let me just quickly go through. Barriers to Entry by Ariel Lawhon. This is what originally got me to read this collection because I read The Frozen River by Ariel Lawhon in December and absolutely loved it. One of my favorite reads of last year. And so I picked this one up. This was all about a woman who kind of is a mother in the forensic science field. This is set in the early 1900s and she is teaching a forensic class. Most of these novellas, I should say, are like between 35 and 50 pages. So very quick reads. In total, if you read all 7, whatever that math ends up being, it kind of felt like one book with 7 short stories. Not that really any of them have to do with each other. The second place enjoyable one, I should say, is Fallen Grace by Sadiqa Johnson. Also an author I read from before. I really enjoyed The Yellow Wife by her. This is all about a woman who is in one of those like unwed mothers' homes. Her family turned her in, basically saying like, we don't want anything to do with you because you got pregnant and that's taboo. She's also a Black woman, so she ends up running away from that home with her child and making a name for herself and surviving against the odds. So that was also a really interesting take. I like how it was written. I gave it 3 stars. Third place, The Forgotten Chapter by Pam Jenoff. I have read a Pam Jenoff and I did not like my time with that one. The Orphan Girls of Paris or something like that. I think it was just like mediocre historical fiction for me about World War II. This one is also set during the war, but I liked it a lot more. I think the characters were really well developed in it. There was a part about the romance that I didn't love at the end, and the ending was very rushed. I felt like she was really going for like a full-length novel, and then bam, at the end she's like, okay, this needs to end in a page. So I was like, what? But besides that, I really liked it. I feel like this would have been a great full-length novel. Then the fourth place is Amelia's Shadow by Mary Benedict. This is all about the other woman that was like second place to Amelia Earhart. Basically, there was a group of young women pilots during the same time, and they all kind of like formed a group together, and Amelia, and I not remember her name, I think it was Dorothy, but they became best friends and were hanging out together at the same time, and it's sort of their friendship and potentially maybe romance. I think this like teetered on like that maybe Amelia Earhart was maybe bi or gay, I'm not sure, but they did kind of hint at that. Mary Benedict is an author that I have not read from before, but I do have a book of, and I have heard that she writes unlikable main characters, so now I'm even more hesitant because I didn't love this one. Then I have Tune In Tomorrow by Melanie Benjamin, Fires to Come by Asha Lemme, and The June Paintings by Maggie Shipstead. I'm gonna mention all 3 together. I gave them all 1 star. I hated all of them. In Tune In Tomorrow, it was all about infidelity, and it was garbage. I hated it. Fires to Come was about a mixed race woman in like the Italian mafia in Boston and how she murders her brother. It was super weird, like no. And June Paintings by Maggie Shipstead, also about not infidelity per se, but it was just like a weird, very age gap, like sexual painting. It was weird. I did not like my time with that one. Melanie Benjamin and Asha Lemme I've read from before, and I didn't love either of their books, and I did not love the short story collection, so now I'm not interested to pick any more up from those historical fiction authors. And Maggie Shipstead, I heard of Great Circle. I had no really desire to read it, and after reading June Paintings, I'm like, no. Not interested. I'm glad I got a sampling collection from various authors, historical fiction authors that I have had on my shelves that I read books from before. Those are just my takes. I think I'm maybe more in the unpopular camp. It was kind of fun to read novellas. I like the format. I'm totally open to doing that again. I think they did a similar thing with romance writers as well with Kindle Unlimited, but I wasn't really interested in that. So take with that what you will. Okay, and moving on, last but not least, was West with Giraffes by Linda Rutledge. This is a historical fiction book that I've had on my shelves for a while. It's been on my radar for a while. I think it's under the radar. I've heard wonderful things about this book, but I have not also heard that many people talk about it. It's not very popular for historical fiction that seems to be so well loved and is so well rated. I ended up giving this book only 3 stars, and I think that is just because it like started really high for me and then just went lower and lower and lower, and then by the end I was like, gosh, I just want this book to be over and I want to be done reading the story. It felt like I read it for the entirety of the month because I did. It started strong, it started captivating, I was all about it, and then I was like, why are we still here? Why is this still happening? We basically follow one young man who's 18 years old, and it is his story of how he becomes the driver of 2 giraffes going west from the East Coast all the way to San Diego. And he joins another man who's taking care of the giraffes. So it's them 2 in a truck driving these giraffes across the country. And then there's a slight, barely there romance between a photographer girl who joins them along for the ride and kind of tailgates them to write a story and take photographs of the experience. The narration perspective is told from this 18-year-old boy who's 104 years old in a nursing home, and he's retelling these events by writing it down in like a letter to someone, and he wants to share his experience of this journey. The pros of this book is that the character development is great. Like, we get to know the characters really well because it is, you know, almost 400 pages of just characters. We follow them every single day of the journey, moment by moment, and it is very repetitive. Basically every day some almost dangerous thing happens. Like, they almost get flipped over, they almost get robbed, the giraffe almost dies, the giraffe gets injured, they get a flat tire, they run into someone they shouldn't run into. Every day there's like a climax of something's going wrong, and then it's always resolved, and that keeps happening every single day. So it's incredibly repetitive, and then the ending was just so disappointing. I was like, okay, you're just like this sad old man in a nursing home who's lived absolutely no life except for that 1 week-long adventure you went on, and that's it. So I was quite disappointed. I don't know if any of that's spoilery. I know a lot of people love this book because I think the character development was really great, but the ending was such a bummer for me, and it just was way too long and repetitive. Like, nothing else happened, and I wanted more from the story. So that was my take on it. I will be putting this up on Pango if anyone wants it. And that is it. That wraps up my March reading. Thanks so much for watching and sticking around. Let me know what you thought of any of my opinions, and I will see you guys in another video soon. Bye.